Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the World Unfiltered podcast, where I talk about things going on in the world, but completely unfiltered. And I talk about those things with or without offense to friend or foe. Well, today, our attention has been turned to a new show that is currently streaming on Apple TV+. That's where the focus has been. I did an episode earlier where I kind of gave you some basic information. We played a little bit of a review from NPR Fresh Air, and I kind of told you about it. And I told you I was going to go watch it. And as soon as I was done, I was going to run up the stairs to the podcast studio. And here I am. And I think the only way to begin even having this discussion is not even telling you the name of the show, not even reminding you the name of the show. I think we have to start with, this. Subvert expectations. To subvert expectations. The definition to subvert expectations is this. Or subvert expectations. The definition is this. To behave contrary to an established belief or assumption for the purpose of being fresh and interesting. Subvert expectations. To behave contrary to an established belief or assumption for the purpose of being fresh and interesting. Usually this is used in the arts when analyzing the reaction of the audience to a performance or a piece of writing. Well, I want to use the phrase to refer to the new show that is currently streaming on Apple TV+, and this show is called Constellation. Constellation, currently streaming on Apple TV+, and all I can say, it subverted my expectations, and maybe my expectations were I went in it with the wrong expectations because of, a little bit of the review that we heard. I kind of had a way of going about it because this is supposedly about, something happening in space and something goes wrong and someone is trying to survive. Now, the review did say it's hard to follow. So I was kind of going into it going, I wonder what's going to be hard to follow. But I was all like, okay, they're in space. Something bad happens. Okay. All right. It's that typical thing. It borrows from maybe a number of different space science fiction type programs or shows or movies that kind of handle this kind of narrative or this kind of story. So I had an expectation. But from the very opening segment, my expectations were subverted because I thought maybe we would start with it would fade in and it would be a shot from space. It would show maybe the space station or a spacecraft, or it would show the moon or Earth or something. I thought we would start, but we didn't start in space. In fact, the first scene, it's dark. And you kind of see some headlights through some trees. And you find out that it's like winter time. It's really cold. And there's some people driving. I'm not going to try to give away any major spoilers. And the next thing you know, they're out in the snow, like at an isolated cabin somewhere in the woods. And it's like something is going on. And you think, wait a minute, is this something about happens in space? Or is this like a horror film, like a drama where there's someone chasing someone and someone trying to kill someone, and wait, something is happening, and then there's like a light and there's all this fog, and you're like, what is happening? And then it switches. Now, immediately I realized maybe one of the reasons it's hard to follow is it's non-linear. It doesn't just follow a linear storytelling model. It's non-linear. It's like, here's a scene. Now let's go back. Let's change it up. All right. So that right there can make it a little hard to follow. But the opening scene I thought was very well done. And then from there, you begin to kind of build the story. And then it kind of switches. It kind of then merges these two kind of concepts, space with kind of what was happening in the woods. This kind of all kind of comes together. Now, I don't have any answers yet, right? I don't have any answers. This is what I would tell you. If you do not have a subscription to Apple TV+, get one for now. and at least watch the first episode of Constellation streaming on Apple TV Plus. I believe it's well worth your time. It looks amazing. The acting, I think, is great. And I am very intrigued with where this story is going. Now, I don't know if it's going to pay off. I don't know if it's going to pay off in the end. There was a show on Apple TV Plus. I can't remember the name of it, but by the time it was over, the payoff was so disappointing. I was kind of like, wait, that's it? This is how it ends? I'm hoping this one lives up to the excitement I have from the first episode. The first episode, I'm really excited. And this is one of those where I typically, now I don't binge watch. I don't do that. But if I'm being honest with you, I want to go ahead and watch episode 2. I want to watch it right now because it had me intrigued. It pulled me in. It looked amazing. I thought the acting was good. So and it seems like this is just not like something bad happens in space. How will the person survive? No, there's something going on in space and something has happened on Earth. Now, I don't know if this is a situation where what they're showing in space is going to kind of act out in a way. It's going to kind of serve as a symbol of them working through whatever happened on Earth. Like a lot of times a show will do that. It'll be like, here's this tragedy. Now something else is happening, but it's really not about that. It's about the tragedy and them processing it almost in a symbolic way, that they're coming to grips with it, or they are struggling, and then they kind of get some kind of revelation to how they need to proceed. I don't know if it's going to do that. It's non-linear. It's very well done. I don't want to give too much away. What I would tell you a couple of things. I don't know if there is a connection between one is in space and then the other kind of narrative is happening, and obviously a harsh winter. Both environments are somewhat dangerous. Okay, maybe. I hadn't even thought of that, but maybe. But there's a painting on the wall. Now, the painting is shown twice, right? Kind of at the beginning and then at the end. And both times the camera lingers on the painting, but the painting is different. It seems to be the same painting, but it's different. If you see it the first time, I'm not going to tell you what it is. And then at the end, look for the same painting. It's completely different. Why is it different? To me, there's some symbolism there. There's something they want you to see. And again, I don't want to give it away. The last thing I hate to do is just give this away. What I want to do is to get you, thinking about it and discussing it and analyzing it and trying to interpret it. I don't have all the answers. I don't think you're supposed to have all the answers at the end of episode 1, right? I don't think you are. But I think you are. I don't want to give that away. I think there's some clues. We have non-linear. We have an opening segment that subverts at least my expectations, because I'm thinking space. Even on the NPR story about it, I mean, the photograph is a woman in a spacesuit, right? Okay, and then this is how they describe it. Constellation, the new drama series streaming on Apple TV Plus, starts in outer space with an astronaut struggling to survive and return safely to Earth after things go horribly wrong. This has been familiar film territory, from the malfunction in Apollo 13 and the deadly stowaway in Alien to the twisting perception of reality and gravity. See, but they say it starts in space. So maybe that's what gave me a certain expectation, but it doesn't start in space. So it doesn't. It starts somewhere else and in space. And how are the two narratives related? The two narratives are going to come together in some way. One represents the other. One is symbolic of the other. One is the working out of the other. I don't know. So it subverts expectations with how it begins. And that immediately intrigued me. That was good. How it kind of returns back to where it started, that intrigued me. You have this interesting thing with the painting. You have to just look at the paintings and see what they think that represents. I think the acting is great. I think the pacing was good. And I think it leaves you wanting more, which is what a story is supposed to do, right? I mean, if you finish episode 1 and you're kind of like, whatever, maybe I'll get to episode 2. Maybe I will, maybe I'm not. Like you kind of have a little bit of indifference to it. Well, then, that's bad. But if you finish episode 1 and you're like, whoa, that was crazy. Well, then by all means, they did something right. So Apple TV Plus, Constellation. Go watch it. Watch episode 1. I'd love to get your thoughts. You can email them to me, newsif@yahoo.com. That's newsif@yahoo.com. You may not be as impressed as I was. You may not be as intrigued by where the story is going. You may not care that it's nonlinear. You may not even care. You may not care to try to figure out what the paintings represent. But I think you should, and I think it's fun, and I think it's worth your time, and I'm intrigued, and I cannot wait to episode 2. Now, there's far more I would like to say, far more. But then, we start getting into spoilers, and we start giving things away, and we don't want to do that. It's the first episode is about an hour long. It flew by to me. It flew by. And I hope you enjoy it. Constellation, now streaming on Apple TV Plus. Watch it. See if you can understand it. And then we'll talk about episode 2 as soon as I watch it. All right. Have a great night. And this has been the newest episode of the World Unfiltered podcast for Tuesday, February the 22nd, 2024. This was recorded, or the recording ends right now at 8:12 p.m. Central Time.